The first night the dragons slept, Daenerys Targaryen dreamed in black fire. She lay on the hard earth beside a dead khal and a heap of cooling ashes that had been a pyre, wrapped in a cloak that still stank of horse and smoke. 3 small bodies clung to her, warmed her, even here beneath the open sky of the red waste, as if she were the last hearth in the world. Their scales rasped faintly when they shifted, a sound like sand sliding down glass. The smallest of them ticked his claws against her skin in his sleep. Their breath came hot and steady. Her own breath fogged, though the night was not cold. In the dream, the smoke did not rise to the stars. It coiled downward, folding the sky into itself, until the world above became a vault of smoldering shadow. Fire licked up from the ground instead, long black tongues that left the dirt unburnt but turned the air to glass wherever they passed. In that glass, things were reflected that she did not know. A long, low hall crowded with rough men, a tall throne of twisted metal, a pale girl with silver hair and a bruise blooming on her arm, a boy with lilac eyes and a sword he could not quite lift. When the fire drew together, it took the shape of a dragon first, vast and slow, with wings that covered mountains. Then the wings folded, shrank, the neck curled upon itself. The bulk of it stepped forward on 2 legs. The great head sank and changed, the horned skull smoothing into a human face that still held something of the beast around the eyes. He was tall. He wore black armor that drank the light, chased with red as if the smith had hammered veins of molten copper into the plates. A circlet sat upon his brow. 3 heads of a dragon, their mouths opened wide enough that he might have been crowned with their hunger. In his fist he held a sword that looked like a shard chipped off the night, the edges alive with blue. The dragons on her shoulders went silent in the dream. She felt their tiny bodies grow suddenly rigid, felt their claws dig into her flesh as if they clung to stone. Their warmth deepened, fever-hot. "You are late," Daenerys said, though she had never seen him. The man's mouth curved, not quite a smile. "You expected me sooner? I expected no one." Her voice didn't sound like hers. It was stronger, fuller, as if it belonged to some older version of herself. "But I have seen you sometimes, in the flames, in my brother's rages, in the way men look at thrones. I have been many things to many eyes." His gaze moved over her, taking in the ash smeared on her skin, the ragged shift, the dragons. His eyes were a hard, steady purple, not the glassy mauve of Viserys' fury, but something older. "Tonight, I am what you need. I need an army," she said. "I need ships. I need to cross the world and burn the usurpers in their city. I need my son back. Can you give me any of that, dream man?" The question came out harsh, an iron taste on her tongue. She had not meant to say the last part, but dreams had a way of stripping words down to bare bone. The man's face flickered. For a heartbeat, another expression passed over it, something that might have been grief if it had not vanished so quickly, leaving only iron behind. "I cannot return what the fire has already taken," he said. "Everything else you have named is ash compared to what you carry on your shoulders." He looked at the dragons. They stared back, pupils a razor slit in molten gold. One of them, her green and bronze, the fiercest, bared needle teeth in a soundless snarl. "Who are you?" Daenerys asked. He inclined his head, as if that question were a throne he had sat for a very long time. "I was Aegon of House Targaryen, called the Conqueror, the first of your line to sit the Iron Throne." The name was like a hand plunging into her chest. She had heard it whispered by Illyrio and Viserys, by old men in pentos with wine-loose tongues. Aegon the Dragon, Aegon who forged the 7 kingdoms with 3 heads of fire and will. Her brother had spoken of him as other men spoke of gods they did not quite believe in. She looked at this man and saw not a god, but something frighteningly close to a reflection. The same silver-gold hair, though his was longer and bound back with a ring of black leather. The same narrow face, the same bones. "You are dead," she said. He shrugged, a small economical movement that made the plates of his armor whisper. "So is the empire I built, if foolish tongues speak true. Yet here we stand. This is a dream. It is dragon dreaming. he said, as if that were a different thing altogether. Our blood remembers, dragon to dragon, across the dark. Fire does not know the years, Daenerys Stormborn. It only knows what can burn. He said her name as if he had waited, as if he were not sure what it would rise to in the heat. Why now? She said. Why me? There were others. My father, my brother. Your father would not listen, Aegon said. The words came without heat, but they rasped like a sword drawn from a long-neglected sheath. The last time I found him, he was busy talking to the fire himself. He thought it praised him. Of course he did, she muttered. And the boy? For the first time, the Conqueror's gaze wavered. The boy had his own dreams. They were not of a kingdom healed or a realm bound close. They were of crowns and revenge and petty slights. He heard me once. He did not like what I said. What did you say? That kingship is not a toy you clutch to yourself while you stamp your feet. His eyes fixed on hers again. I told him to give up the crown he held in his mind and become worthy of the one he wanted. He spat at me. He called me a coward for bending the knee of the North without burning it to cinders. He asked why I had not flayed the Starks and worn their skins as cloaks. Dreams can't be killed, he said. They can't be beaten with horse whips. Her throat tightened, thinking of Viserys' thin hands, the bruises he had left on her. The dragons on her shoulders shifted uneasily, as if they remembered him too. A crown for a tale of gold, she said softly. Aegon's brow furrowed. What? Nothing. She straightened in the dream, though her real body still lay curled on the earth. If you were a man once, you must have wanted something more than a kingdom. What do you want now, Aegon Targaryen, that you crossed centuries to walk in my dreams? He considered her in silence. The storms in his eyes seemed to recede a little. She glimpsed something beyond them, a distance not measured in miles. You will wake, he said, to hunger and heat and empty lands. You will walk through death and bargain with men who have never seen a dragon outside of a tapestry. You will have no ships, no coin, no armies. You will have only fire. His gaze flickered to the dragons again. One of them, black and red, cocked his head as if listening. I am here to keep you from wasting it, Aegon said. On what? On the wrong enemies, he said. On the wrong city, on the wrong throne. The dream shook like cloth in a gale. For a moment Daenerys saw not the red waste around her, but a different land. Green fields stretching to the horizon, a line of armored men glinting along their edge. Dragons wheeled above them, 3 shadows on a field of fire. She felt their joy and terror both, in the soldiers, in the dragons themselves. Teach me then, she said, if you are really him, if you can do more than speak of what was. Teach me to win my kingdom. He smiled. Not the cold curve from before, but a flash of something almost eager, almost proud. The first lesson, he said, is that your kingdom is not what you think it is. The dream shattered. She woke with her heart hammering, the taste of ash in her mouth. The night air was thin and dry, the stars sharp as shards of ice. Something heavy and warm slid off her shoulder and onto her chest. She looked down into the half-lidded eyes of her golden dragon, who blinked at her once and then tucked his head beneath the edge of her cloak. You dreamed as well? She whispered. The dragon yawned, a tiny pink maw ringed with daggers, and sent a puff of smoke against her throat. Somehow she knew it meant yes. She lay awake for a long time, listening to their breathing, watching the sky. By dawn, she had convinced herself that she had imagined him. Of course she had. The dead did not speak. Only fools chased visions, and she had no more time to be a fool. But the next night, in the feverish hours when sleep came grudgingly, the black fire rose again. This time it took her to a window. She was not in her own body. She looked down at herself, at the broad shoulders encased in black scales, at the strong old sword within easy reach, and knew she was Aegon, that she had been Aegon for a long time. The knowledge sat in her bones as comfortably as a king on a well-fitted saddle. Wind rattled the shutters. Beyond the window, The sky boiled with storm. Lightning flickered along the edge of dark clouds like teeth. "How many banners?" she heard herself ask, though there was no one else in the room. The answer came from somewhere far below. "Too many, Your Grace. The Reach and the Rock both. They mean to crush us between them." Her hand tightened on the window frame. The wood felt real under her fingers, knotted and splintering. Below, a sea of tents glowed faintly in the rain. Her army, small fires in the dark. "Let them come," she answered, knowing there was a dragon sleeping in the depths of that storm, knowing he would wake when she called. The memory swelled, bright and hot, men burning, steel puddling on charred earth. The smell of cooked flesh, the sound of screams that became wordless before they ended. Aegon watched, and some part of Daenerys watched with him, shrinking back even as the dragon in the sky exulted in the kill. When the dream released her, she was sitting upright in the red waste, her breath ragged. Moonlight limned the bones of her hands. The dragon stirred, restless. "So," a voice said very close, "now you have seen it." He leaned against a boulder that had not been there a blink before. The night should have hidden him, but his armor drank what little light there was and returned it in glints and edges. "That was the field of fire," Daenerys said. Her tongue seemed thick. You burned 2 kings on that day." "I burned an army that meant to tear a realm apart," Aegon said. "Men like to put crowns on such things. There is very little difference between a king who refuses to yield and the stubbornest foot soldier who refuses to break." "They burned," she said. "They ran. They cried for mercy. And 1,000 generations will not forget it," he replied evenly. "Every lord who thinks to rise against a Targaryen will remember, in his marrow, what dragon flame does to flesh. I made a kingdom in that hour that lasted 300 years. Do you think that is accomplished with soft hands?" The dragons hissed softly, uneasy. Daenerys studied him. "Viserys used to say you were a hero," she mused. "He said you were the only true king the 7 kingdoms ever had, and all that came after you were worms gnawing at your bones." Aegon's mouth twitched. Your brother loved grand words. He had never tasted snow on the neck, or listened to the rain beating on the halls of the Trident, or listened to a small folk woman barter her last chicken to a passing hedge knight for a day of protection. Kingship isn't a song, Daenerys. It's mud and blood and compromise. And yes, sometimes it is fire. "I will not be like him," she said sharply. "Like Viserys. I will not be cruel for its own sake. I will not burn men just to make them fear me." He regarded her in silence. A gust of hot wind ruffled his hair. She realized, with a little shiver, that no such wind blew in the waking world. "You have his temper," Aegon said, "but not his blindness." He pushed away from the rock. "You would make a poor seducer of Dragonfire, little niece. You argue with it. I am your many times great-granddaughter," she pointed out. "In dragon years, that's scarcely a breath." He stepped closer, until she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes. Not the lines of laughter. The lines of someone who had squinted too often through smoke and dust, judging distances a dragon might fly before its strength failed. "I did not come to you to make you into a copy of myself. The world does not need another Aegon. It needs something different, or the throne we forged will end in the same way it began, in screams." "Then what do you want from me?" she demanded. "I want you to choose more wisely than I did," he said simply. She stared at him. The flames that had formed him guttered at the edges, casting his face into deeper shadow. "You said I wasted fire," she said slowly. "That my kingdom isn't the one I think it is. You speak of my father and my brother as failures, yet they were Targaryens too. How am I to be better than them when the whole world thinks I will be just the same?" "Do you care what the whole world thinks?" Aegon's tone was sharp. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "I care what my people think," she said. "The ones who will be mine. I want them to love me." "Love is a frail shield," Aegon said. "It shatters under the first hammer blow of fear." Ask any lord who thought his charming smile would protect him from a peasant revolt. You conquered with terror, then. I conquered with inevitability. He paced in front of her, the dream sand unmarked by his boots. They saw what happened to Harrenhal. They saw what happened on the field of fire. They bent because they realized there was no other way to keep their people alive than to kneel. Once they were on their knees, I gave them my hand. I raised them with honors. I showed them that yielding did not mean extinction. And the ones who did not kneel? Daenerys asked quietly. Some burned, some bled, some broke themselves upon the teeth or the frostfangs, thinking the wilderness in the north would take them in as lords. He looked at her. Do not deceive yourself. There will always be those who would rather see the world charred than bow to a dragon. You must decide now what you will do with such men when you find them. She thought of drovers and traders in V's Duthrak, the way they had flinched from Viserys' rage, from Drogo's careless violence. She thought of the women in the Khalasar, war prizes who had learned to live with broken bodies and broken minds because there was nowhere else to go. I will not be my father, she said. That is not a plan, Aegon replied. It is a wish. Wishes are for children and eunuchs. The world does not care what you do not want to be. It only cares what you are. Then teach me, she said again. Teach me how to be a queen who is not mad and not cruel, but still strong enough to win what is mine. He studied her for a long moment, and some of the cold in his gaze softened. Very well, Aegon said. We will start with dragons. The dream burned away. The days that followed blurred into dust and heat. They trudged through the red waste, the horses dying one by one, the waterskins growing lighter. The dragons grew heavier. Daenerys fed them biscuit crumbs and strips of dried meat, scraps of charred horseflesh. They snapped and clawed and hissed at one another like three hungry brothers, but when she cupped her hands and called to them, they came. At sunset, the sky often blazed the same color as their scales. She watched them tumbling through the air, pinwheeling and diving, and tried to imagine them vast enough to blot out armies. It seemed impossible that these squirming, squeaking creatures could become beasts that made men kneel from 100 leagues away. The men of her Khalasar watched as well. Their eyes were wary. Dragons were omens, and omens were to be feared, even when they were small enough to perch on your shoulder. Khaleesi, said Jorah Mormont one night, as they camped beneath a jagged outcrop that offered the smallest bit of shade. You haven't slept. I have slept, she said, without looking at him. The dragons scrabbled up the rocks, chasing some insect that glimmered in the dark. You've closed your eyes, he corrected gently, and then woken with a start, as if someone has shouted your name. We see you, you know. You are not alone here. She felt a flicker of irritation, quick as the dragon's tongues. What I dream is my own affair, sire. I do not pry. He hesitated. But dreams have power. In my homeland, there are tales of men driven mad by their visions. They could not tell wind from whisper or prophecy from fear. If something troubles you, it does not, she said too fast. He gave her a look that said he did not believe her, but he bowed and backed away. She watched him go, the set of his shoulders heavy. That night, Aegon did not come, nor the next, nor the next. In his absence, her dreams were scattered things. Dothraki riders with dragon's wings, Khal Drogo riding a black horse across a sea made of stars, her son Rhaego opening his tiny fist to reveal a crown of bone. Once she heard a man laughing, low and amused, in a language she did not know but somehow understood. When she turned, there was no one there. She began to think she had driven Aegon away with her questions, or that he had never been more than the fevered invention of a mind that had seen a miracle and could not bear its own loneliness. Then they reached Karth, the city of bones and bells, the greatest city that ever was, or will be. 100 other names merchants had puffed their cheeks around. Its walls rose white and high, carved with beasts and flowers and scenes of conquest. Its gates were worked with bright enamel and precious stones. For all that, it looked to Daenerys like an oasis rising out of a graveyard. The dragons perched on her shoulders as they entered, their eyes like new minted coins. Men and women in silk and brocade stared openly. Some clutched at amulets, others at blades. No one had seen dragons here for 400 years. "Be careful," Yora murmured at her side. "They smell new things, and new things make men hungry. They will not touch what is mine," she said. But later, when they stood in the fragrant courtyard of Zarozoan Daxos and the air was cooler, softer, rich with the scent of flowering trees, she found herself too tired to keep her guard as high as the city walls. She bathed, letting the hot water sluice away the dust of the waste. She ate fruit with juices that ran down her chin. She listened to men speak in circles, offering alliances wrapped in gems and poison both. And that night, in a bed that was too soft, wrapped in sheets that smelled faintly of smoke and perfume, she dreamed again of black fire. "You grow careless," Aegon said, from the end of the bed. She jerked upright, clutching the sheets to her chest. The dragons lay in a tangle at her feet, their tails entwined. They did not stir, though she felt their warmth as a sudden flare. "Do you make a habit of appearing in a woman's bedchamber unannounced?" she demanded, breathless. "In life, I slept in armor more often than not," he said dryly. "Beds make men forget the edge of the sword. You lay your head on silk and you start to believe that silk is what keeps you safe." "This is my host's bed," she said, "not mine. If the silk belongs to anyone, it's Zarozoan Daxos." "That man's name is a song sung over a pit of vipers," Aegon said. "Do not trust anyone who insists on telling you how great a friend he is. In my day, such men usually kept an assassin in their pantry along with the wine." "He has been kind," Daenerys said. "He has fed my people. He has given me clothes and a roof and a cage," Aegon interrupted. She blinked. "This is no cage. I am free to leave when I wish. Are you?" His eyes flicked to the glass doors that opened onto a balcony. Beyond them lay the sleeping city, all its wealth held in those white walls like a pearl in a shell. "Tell me, Daenerys, if you walked out of that gate tomorrow, how far would you get with your people before thirst and hunger fell on you again?" Her mouth dried. "He would not take the water," he swore, "in front of his gods. Men swear many things in front of their gods. They swear fewer in front of their treasuries." Aegon moved closer. The room seemed to shrink around him. "He will offer you comfort. He will offer you a place in his world. He will offer you arrangements that keep you within arm's reach. All he wants from you is your dragons." She thought of Zaro's quick, bright eyes lingering on the hatchlings, lingering on her. "I will not sell them," she said. "Never." "Good," Aegon said. "But there are other ways to lose a dragon than a fair sale. A drowning man does not ask who owns the boat he clings to. He will pry the planks loose with his fingernails if he must, and hope to live long enough to be sorry. He saved us in the desert," she protested, "but there was less force in it now. Without him, we would have died." "Did he?" Aegon asked softly. She remembered the Carthene riders who had found them, watching them with calculating eyes. Remembered how readily they had turned once Jiki and Rakaro had told them of the dragons. "Perhaps he merely arrived," Aegon said. "Men like that do not share, they acquire." She drew her knees up beneath her chin, suddenly small in the wide bed. "What am I to do? Leave? Drag my people back into the waste? Stay and be caged? I have no army, no ships. I have nothing they want but the dragons, and I will not." Her throat closed. "You have more than you think," Aegon said. "You have the most dangerous thing in the world." "My dragons are still small," she whispered. "I don't mean the dragons." His gaze burned. "I mean a story." She frowned. "What use are stories against swords? They move the hands that hold the swords." He sat at the foot of the bed, as if he had done so in 100 other chambers. The mattress did not dip under his weight, but she felt something shift all the same. "Go down into the markets tomorrow. Let them see you. Let them whisper, 'The silver-haired queen with the dragons. The blood of old Valyria come again.' The more they speak, the more real you become. To them, to their neighbors, to their distant cousins in other cities. The man who offers you nothing but coin will crawl when he realizes he is competing with faith. Faith in me? She asked. In what you represent, he said. It's not the same thing, but it will do. She hugged the sheets tighter. You speak as if ruling is all games and lies. It is, Aegon said. But it's also choice. Every lie you tell, every game you play shapes who you are. In the end, you either become the lie or you break it like a chain. Your father chose poorly. Your brother never understood. You, he paused, considering her. You may yet choose well, he finished. And if I do not, she whispered, then the world burns one way or another, he said. And my coming to you was only a cruel joke the dragons played on themselves. Her laugh came out thin. The dragons play jokes? You think you ride them? Aegon asked. You think you command them? I once believed that too. Then Meraxes dropped a wing beat too low over a city wall, and my sister fell. The dragon lived. My sister did not. His face had softened when he spoke of her. Daenerys felt the ache in it like a bruise she'd made herself long ago, pressing thumb into bone until pain bloomed just to be sure she still could feel. I'm sorry, she said quietly. So am I, he said. I dreamed of her dying for weeks. I saw the stone bolt piercing her chest. I saw the stunned look in her eyes. I woke with blood on my sheets and could not remember whose it was. I did nothing. I told myself it was madness. Then it happened. Afterward, I burned the city that had fired the bolt. It did not make her any less dead. He looked at her, a conqueror and a widower in the same breath. When dragon dreams show you death, Aegon said, they are not always showing you some strange future you can avoid by squinting at the flames. Sometimes they are showing you the cost of a choice you have already made. Remember that. The room darkened, the perfumes souring into smoke. Daenerys reached out without meaning to, but her fingers closed on empty air. She woke with her hand outstretched and the dragons hissing at the corners of the bed, hackles raised, eyes fixed on something she could not see. Easy, she murmured, gathering them, their little hearts hammered under her palms. Easy, my darlings. He's gone. But his words were not. In the days that followed, she did as he had said. She walked through the markets of Karth with her head high and the dragons on her shoulders, and she let them see her, let them whisper, the Silver Queen, the Dragon Queen, the one who walked immune through fire. Men bowed, women stared, faces a mix of awe and fear. Children pointed, their eyes wide. Zaro watched it all, his smooth face unreadable. The people love you, he said one evening as they dined beneath the orange trees in his inner courtyard. They tell tales already. How you called lightning down to wake your beasts. How you rode a storm into the city. I walked, she said, and they rode in baskets on my shoulders. Ah, but that is not a story, Zaro replied, smiling. Stories need thunder. He did not ask again to buy her dragons. He didn't need to. They both understood that as long as they sat on her shoulders, the city would come closer of its own accord. But in her dreams, Aegon showed her other cities. Astapor, with its harpy toppled and its streets running with blood and broken chains. Yunkai, its yellow bricks soot-streaked but intact, its freedmen kneeling in squares, awaiting judgment. Meereen, dense and proud, the Great Pyramid casting long shadows over an uneasy peace. You will have a choice, he said, standing with her atop a pyramid that did not yet belong to her. You can pass through this land like a storm, breaking chains and moving on, or you can root yourself here. You can try to mend what you have shattered. And if I do? She asked. If I stay, you will learn that ruling a single city is harder than conquering 7 kingdoms, Aegon said. And you will bleed for it. You will bleed slow. I conquered with fire and fear, Daenerys. I made men bow in awe and terror. Then all at once they were my lords. But I never stayed too long in one place. I never tried to remake their laws or their customs. I forged the throne, but others sat patiently on it. mending what I had broken. My sisters, my hand, my heirs. His voice turned wry. In your time, you will not find such hands ready-made. If you take these cities, their cruelty will become yours to fix. You will be the queen of every lash scar and every broken collar until the last shackle is rust. Tell me, he turned to her, is that the queen you want to be? Daenerys looked down over the dream city. Smoke curled from burning slave brands. Banners fluttered. The harpy torn down, some strange new sigil rising in its place. I don't know, she said. You must, Aegon said gently. Before you begin, choosing nothing is a choice too. In the waking world, standing in the hull of a trade cog bound for Slaver's Bay, Daenerys watched the horizon and thought of choices. It would be easier to sail west, Yora urged one morning, as the sea flashed around them. We could take Pentoshi ships. We could hire swords. The 7 kingdoms are at war. King against king, lord against lord. It is ripe for your return. Why spend your strength on these cities of slave masters? Because I will not build my throne on chains, she said. I will not even for Westeros. That sounds very noble, Khaleesi, Yora said, and there was despair in it. Noble does not win thrones. She thought of a different voice, deeper, edged with smoke. Noble does not, Aegon agreed inside her skull. But sometimes necessary does. She curled her fingers around the ship's rail until her knuckles blanched. Then I will have to find a way to make necessary and noble the same, she said. He laughed, soft and surprised. You aim high, he murmured. I was born in a storm, she answered, beneath her breath. What else should I do? You were born in exile, he corrected. The storm only brought you into the world. Exile shaped you. Remember that when those born in palaces try to instruct you on what is possible. Astapor smelled of shit, fear, and oil used to polish armor. The Unsullied stood in their long, silent ranks, spears upright, eyes dead. They are not men, the slaver Krasny's Emonaklos told her in his oily Valyrian. They are weapons. They do not feel. They do not question. They do not break. In her head, Aegon snorted. Men who say such things have never been inside another man's skin, he remarked. Nor, I suspect, their own. They are men, Daenerys said, in the garbled Giscari-tinged tongue that passed for Valyrian in this place. I see it. The slaver laughed at her accent. Her translator laughed too, with a careful edge, though she saw something fl. Ichor in the slave woman's eyes. Do you? Aegon asked that night, when she lay in the cramped cabin of her temporary quarters, listening to the waves slap the hull. She stared up at the boards overhead. I see men who have had their bodies and their will stolen, she said. If I had been born here, perhaps I would be one of them, or one of the girls in the pens. You would not, Aegon said. The dragon stirs in some bloodlines more strongly than in others. You would have altered your course sooner or later. You would have slit someone's throat, or set a house on fire for the heat of it, or walked barefoot into a storm and laughed when it knocked you down. That sounds like madness, she said. I did not say it would be safe, he said. We are not safe, we of your line. We are a coin tossed in the air, as someone wiser than I once said. Each child born with your coloring, men watch to see how it will land. His words made her shiver. Then they watch me now. Always, Aegon said. She swallowed. If I take the Unsullied, if I free them and they follow me because they choose to, not because of their training, what then? What will that make of me? Something new, Aegon said. Something that has not yet been tossed. The next day, she took the slaver's lash into her hand. She traded a dragon for an army. You are a fool, Khaleesi, Yora said, watching the Black One struggle as he was dragged forward in chains. He will not give the army. He will cheat you. He will, she said. For a little while, the trade played out against a sky slowly bruising with smoke. The Unsullied's eyes remained forward. The slaver's words were full of contempt. Her translators went deeper, curling around a secret. When the time came, Daenerys raised the lash. Her hand felt strange around it. She thought of all the backs it had bitten into, all the flesh it had marked. "For me," Aegon murmured. "For me," she agreed and said the word, Dracarys. The dragon's fire was not black like the flames of her dreams. It was red and gold and hungry. It rolled over the slaver, over his guards, over their precious whips and rods and papers. Men screamed, men ran, men knelt. She rode out of Astapor at the head of an army that had no chains, an army that had cut their own nipples to prove they could not be broken. "Is this what you wanted?" she asked that night, when the camp's fires had cooled and the Unsullied lay in their neat rows, sleeping like men who had never learned to dream. Aegon appeared beside her fire as if he had been waiting behind the flames. "It is more than I expected," he admitted. "In my day, we conquered men as we found them. We did not think to remake their souls first. It did not occur to me." She arched a brow. "Do dragon dreams not show you everything?" "They show paths," he said. "They do not choose which you walk." "Then perhaps," she said, "you did not walk all the ones you might have." His mouth twitched. "Impudent girl." She smiled, for the first time in days. "Old ghost." He inclined his head. "Queen of chains." "I broke the chains," she said, stung. "Did you?" He gestured toward the sleeping ranks. "These men have known nothing but obedience all their lives. You may have cut their shackles, but habit is a rust more stubborn than iron. They will follow you into any hell you choose. The question is, do you know which ones are worth entering?" She studied the faces in the firelight. Not one of them had moved. "I will not use them as others did," she said at last. "I will not throw their lives away like coins." "Good," Aegon said, "because soon you will need them all. These cities will not fall one by one like overripe fruit into your hands. Every master you break will call his cousins. Every house you topple will send up a dust cloud the next can see from leagues away. The world you wish to make demands a great deal of bone." "And what does your world demand?" she asked. "Mine." He looked away. "Mine is gone. I built a throne from swords and left my descendants to cut themselves on it for centuries. I thought I was making a thing that would bind men together. Instead, I gave them something sharp to fight over." He met her gaze again. "Make something better," he said quietly, "or none of this is worth the smoke." Yunkai fell not with fire, but with promises. Daenerys stood before the walls and listened as envoys spoke of gold, of ships, of peace. They offered her slaves freed by their own hand, men purchased from Astapor years ago like cattle. They offered her things they thought she would value. "Take it," Yora urged. "We have what we came for. You do not need their city." She looked up at the walls, at the yellow bricks and the faces peering down. "Do I leave those men behind?" she murmured. "The ones still inside? The ones still in chains?" "You cannot free them all," he said. "You are not." "Not what?" she demanded softly. He hesitated. "Not a god." She turned away from him. Aegon walked with her along the edge of the camp, his boots silent in the dust. "You could," he said, "leave this city. Take their coin, take their ships, take their offered freedmen, and sail for Westeros. You would arrive with dragons and Unsullied and tales of the cities you burned behind you. The lords there would quake. The people would whisper. I thought you wanted me to be better than you, she said. I do, he said. That is why I must ask. Better for whom? She stopped. What do you mean? She said. You free Astapor, you free Yunkai, you make war on Meereen. Good, noble, necessary, perhaps. But each day you spend here is a day the war in Westeros spreads. Houses fall, others rise. The small folk bleed. Your brother's killers grow older, more secure. The Iron Throne grows roots. I cannot be in two places at once, she snapped. No, he agreed. That is the curse of kings and queens. Every good thing you do in one place is a good thing not done in another. Every injustice you strike down leaves a dozen others standing. You wanted to make noble and necessary the same? This is where they begin to part. Which do you favor, Daenerys? The strangers suffering in Yunkai, who will never know your name if you abandon them? Or the people of Westeros, who might sing of you for 1,000 years if you save them in time? His question hit her like a gust of hot wind. She turned it over in her mind as she stared at the city. If I free these people, she said slowly, they will remember, they will tell others. My name will be carried east and west both. When I go to Westeros, I will not be a stranger. I will be the breaker of chains, the queen who did not walk past slavery because it was convenient. Stories again, he murmured. Always you reach for stories. They are all I have, she said. For now. He regarded her for a long moment. Very well, he said. Break it then. So she did. After Yunkai, Meereen. After Meereen, something she had not seen in any of his dreams. Stasis. The fighting did not end when the harpy came down. Changed its face. It vanished into shadows. It whispered in alleys. It stabbed in the dark. The sons of the harpy cut throats in back streets. Freedmen vanished. Grain disappeared. Merchants muttered. She sat upon a carved throne under the Great Pyramid and tried to rule. You warned me, she said once, in a dream where she and Aegon walked through a Meereen that was not quite theirs. Its streets too wide, its statues taller than any she had seen. You said ruling a city was harder than conquering a kingdom. You did not hear me, he said. There is a difference between hearing and listening. What would you do? She demanded. In my place, her voice broke. Would you burn it all? Leave a heap of ash and corpses and call it justice? He looked around. The dream Meereen was strangely quiet, the colorful bricks muted. No, he said at last. I would find men I trusted, and I would send them to do what I could not, in places I could not be. I would marry allies. I would break bread with enemies. I would give up on purity, if purity meant sitting alone in a palace and watching the city rot. I have no men I trust, she said. Not enough. My counselors are each loyal to something else first. Their home, their purse. Me. You will never have enough, he said. You only need enough to choose from. Trust is a risk, not a reward. You extend it, and then you see who breaks beneath its weight. She thought of Barristan Selmy's steady honor, of Grey Worm's quiet devotion, of Missandei's keen eyes, of Yora's betrayal and his desperate attempts to atone. How many did you trust? She asked. 2, he said. My sisters, and even then, not in all things. He stopped before a broken statue of a harpy. Its wings lay scattered, its head cracked in two. Daenerys, he said, you are trying to do something I never did. You are trying to change a people, not only their ruler. That is slower work than burning fields. It may not be work you were meant to live to see through. My people here need me, she said stubbornly. Do they? His voice gentled. Or do they need what you represent? Freedom, justice, the idea that the masters can be held to account. You can remain here and be torn apart, fulfilling every small need until there is nothing left of you for the larger ones. Or you can accept that leaving will cause pain, perhaps great pain, and go anyway, because there is a colder war waiting across the sea and no one else to fight it. A colder war? She asked sharply. He hesitated. In the dreaming, the air went thin, brittle. Frost crackled along the edges of the broken harpy. When Daenerys drew breath, it misted before her lips. What is this? She whispered. Aegon's gaze had gone distant. When he spoke, his voice came from far away. This is something I only glimpsed at the end, he said. I dreamt of walls of ice as tall as mountains, of dead men walking, of a darkness that did not move like natural night, but like a thing alive. I thought it was madness, or metaphor. A warning, perhaps, not to grow too cold, not to make my heart a winter fortress. He drew a breath. Frost rhymed his lashes. I was wrong, he said simply. This is not metaphor. Shapes moved in the distance, indistinct. They might have been trees, men, teeth. They're coming, he said. They have always been coming. From the north, she realized. Beyond the wall. Yes, he said. A wall my descendants forgot the meaning of. They called it an old story to scare children. They sent criminals and cowards to guard it, and were surprised when it failed to hold. What do you see? She asked, heart pounding. Bits, he said. Pieces. A man with a sword of fire. A boy with a wolf's eyes. A woman on a horse of pale bone. A wall cracking like glass. He looked at her. A queen with dragons, he finished, her breath steaming in the dark. Me? Yes, he said. How can I stand against that? She demanded. What are cities and ships against death that walks? My dragons are still young. I cannot fight ice with half-grown fire. You will not always have half-grown fire, he said. Time turns whether you will it or no. The question is not whether you will be ready. It is what you will have done along the way. How many enemies you will have made that you did not need. How many innocents you will have burned that you could have spared. He stepped closer until his breath mingled with hers in the cold. I went to war to end wars, Aegon said quietly. I failed. The throne I made bred as many conflicts as it solved. In the end, perhaps all I did was move swords from one field to another. But you, his hand brushed her shoulder. She felt nothing, and yet she did. You may stand in a war that does end something, he said. You may stand at the edge of a night that has waited for thousands of years and tell it no. That is bigger than my conquest, bigger than your father's madness, bigger than your brother's vengeance. His eyes held hers. Do not squander yourself before you get there, he said. When she woke, her windows were fogged. In Meereen, where the heat was a weight on the chest, where people slept on rooftops to catch a breath of breeze, her breath hung in the air like winter. She left Meereen later that year. Not easily, not cleanly. She married a noble she did not love to keep the peace for a while. She made compromises that left a sour taste in her mouth. She watched others die for her decisions. She walked among plague tents and felt helpless. But she left. She left a council behind. Men and women she half-trusted, bound by oaths and coin and their own ambitions. She left orders and laws. She left her sigil over the pyramids and her words in their ears. Keep the peace as best you can. Free the slaves. Remember that when I come back, if I come back, I will ask what you have done in my name. You will be disappointed, Aegon said, as the fleet raised anchor in Slaver's Bay. I know, she said. You go anyway, he observed. I do, she said. He inclined his head. Then that is one thing we share. I too went to war knowing I left work unfinished behind me. Perhaps all rulers must. The world is too large to hold in both hands at once. Drogon soared ahead of the ships, a dark shape against the bright sea. Viserion and Regal wheeled overhead, shrieking their delight at the open sky. As Daenerys watched them, hair whipping around her face, she felt something settle in her bones. I am going home, she said. Perhaps, Aegon murmured, if there is any home left to go to. The war in Westeros was a snarl when she arrived. Black banners, red banners, gold. Lions fought wolves. Roses withered. Stags fell. Crows gathered. She chose her allies slowly, painfully. Not every man who offered his sword was worth the oaths that came with it. Not every woman with a clever tongue was worth inviting into her councils. You have learned, Aegon said approvingly, when she turned away a proposed alliance that would have given her twice the men at the price of forcing thousands of Riverlanders to fight their own kin. I have watched cities burn, she replied. I will not burn the hearts of men so lightly. Yet there were times when she did burn. Times when the old Targaryen fire rose in her, demanding to be fed. When she and her dragons first faced a Lannister host in open battle, the smell of it took her back to his dreams. The field of fire. Men roasted in their armor, horses screaming, plumes of black smoke reaching for the sky like hands. Drogon's roar shook the banners. Viserion's flame poured over the shield wall. Regal's shadow touched men who dropped their swords and ran. Aegon's presence pressed around her like a second skin. She felt his approval when she shattered the line. Felt his surprise when she pulled the dragons up, reining back their fire before it swept into a nearby village. "Why?" he demanded, as they circled high above the smoking field. "Those houses will shelter your enemies in future. Those fields will feed their sons. They will feed mine as well," she said. "They will shelter my allies when this war is over. I will not salt the earth I mean to live on. They will never love you for sparing them," he warned. "They will forget. Men forget kindness. They remember fear. Then let them remember both," she said. "Let them remember that I could have burned them and did not. Let them remember that mercy is not weakness, but choice." He stared at her, then laughed suddenly, startling the sky. "What?" she demanded, affronted. "You make me feel very old," he said. "You are very old," she said. "Perhaps," he agreed. But it seems it took all those years for someone to understand that a dragon's true power is not only in what it destroys, but in what it chooses to spare. King's Landing loomed ahead at last, a sprawl of stone and filth, its red keep stabbing at the sky. She dreamed of it for nights before they arrived. In some dreams, she flew over it on Drogon's back, the city a hive beneath her. She saw the bell towers, the crowded streets, the smoke from 1,000 chimneys. She heard screams, smelled char-woke shaking. In others, she landed in the square and was torn apart by a mob. Or she sat upon the Iron Throne and watched snow drift through the broken roof of the throne room, as if the palace had no top left. In one, she saw Aegon on that same throne. His armor was dusty. His dragons were nowhere to be seen. He sat as straight as a sword, his knuckles white on the arms of the chair. "Was it worth it?" she asked him. The throne's metal edges bit into his palms. Blood ran, smoking where it touched the cold iron. "I don't know," he said. She woke with that answer in her mouth. On the day she stood on the hill overlooking the city, her armies at her back and her dragons restless above, she felt every eye upon her. "You can end it here," Yora said hoarsely. "One pass with the dragons and the gold lions are gone. The city will belong to you by dusk." "And the people?" she asked. "The people bend," he said, "or they die. It is war, Khaleesi." She stared at the city. The red keep rose above it, familiar from 100 half-remembered stories. Somewhere inside, the throne that had begun as a dream in Aegon's mind waited, a shard of that dream made cruelly real. "They will ring the bells," another of her coup. Sellers said, "To surrender. If they do, you must stop. You must not become what they fear." "What they fear," Aegon said quietly beside her, "is that you will be exactly what you are, a dragon." She did not answer him. The battle began with catapults. Stones hurled, walls shattered. Fire caught in the outer districts as the fighting surged through narrow streets. Drogon's flame turned the outer towers to slag. The Lannister fleet burned in the bay. Her army poured in through the breaches. The bells began to ring, high, frantic, clanging. Her blood roared in her ears. Drogon screamed, feeling her agitation. The other dragons answered, their minds twining with hers in a knot of heat. "Now," Yora gasped below. "Now, it's over." "Is it?" Aegon's voice cut through the din. She hung there in the sky, Drogon's wings beating thunder. The city sprawled beneath, thousands of lives, their stories tangled. Their fear rose like smoke. She thought of Viserys, raging that he would take what was his with fire and blood. She thought of her father, muttering, "Burn them all," as the wildfire bloomed. She thought of herself, walking through a market as men whispered, "Queen, liberator, breaker of chains." "I could," she said aloud. "I could burn it. I could end the Lannisters' root and branch. No one on that hill would ever think to rise against my rule." "Yes," Aegon said, "you could. Isn't this what you did?" she demanded. "At Harrenhal, at the Field of Fire, you made an example. You showed them what defiance cost." "Yes," he said again. His voice was different now, quieter. And I have watched that example echo down centuries. Every king who came after me thought, in some moment of fear, perhaps I should do as the Conqueror did. Perhaps I should burn them and end the question. Did they? She whispered. Some, he said. Your father among them. Men like to recall my fire and forget my mercy. They forget that I spared Old Town, that I pardoned those who bent the knee. They remember the flames because flames are easy. They forget the nights I sat at council until dawn, arguing over some petty border dispute, because peace is dull. The bells tolled on. What do you want from me? She cried. To be feared or loved? To be you or to be your cure? I want you to be Daenerys Targaryen, he said simply. I want you to look at this city and decide what story they will tell of you when you are dust. Will you be the queen who burned a city that had yielded because it once housed her enemies? Or the queen who burned only those who chose to stand and fight when all hope was gone? They will still hate me, she said. Some will, he said. Some always will. That is the other curse of kingship. You cannot mend every wound. You cannot make everyone love you. You can only decide whose hatred you can live with. She closed her eyes. In the dark behind her lids, she saw snow again. She saw the wall cracking. She saw dead men walking. She saw herself older, gaunter, standing on a field of ice with her dragons circling overhead, their fire the only color in a world gone white. If she burned King's Landing now, she might never see that field. The world might never survive to reach that war. There would be rebellions. There would be uprisings. Her rule would be born in horror and would reap nothing but more of the same. If she spared it, if she held her fire to those who fought and those consenting to house the enemy, she might be thought weak. She might invite challenges, but she would still have the chance to stand on that winter field with something other than ash at her back. She opened her eyes. Fly, she whispered to Drogon, and turned him not toward the packed streets of the capital, but toward the Red Keep and the cluster of gold and crimson banners snapping defiantly above it. Only them, she told him. Only those who chose this war when they had other roads. Drogon's answering roar shook the keep to its foundations. Viserion and Regal wheeled to either side of her, loosing their fire on the fleeing Lannister guards, on the scorpions aimed at the sky, on the tower that housed the queen who had ordered her family killed. Stone crashed, fire leapt, but the streets beyond the keep, the huddled houses of small folk and merchants and children, remained unscorched. Aegon was very quiet. When at last the Red Keep lay in smoking ruin and the gold lions lay charred, when the city's remaining defenders threw down their arms and the bells turned from a note of panic to a ragged, disbelieving clang of relief, Daenerys brought Drogon to rest atop the blackened shell of the Great Hall. The iron throne jutted from the rubble like a broken tooth. Its edges gleamed faintly in the haze. She slid from the dragon's back and walked toward it. Her boots crunched on fallen stone. Her cloak smoked at the edges. Ash drifted through the air, a slow snowfall. In her dreams, she had imagined this moment 1,000 ways. In none of them had she felt quite so tired. You could melt it, Aegon said quietly behind her. End it. Take away the thing we made that has caused so much misery. She looked back at him. He stood in the doorway that no longer had a door, his armor reflecting orange and black. Did you ever sit it and wish you had never made it? She asked. Every day, he said. She turned to the throne. Each sword was a story. Each blade had been held by someone who thought themselves strong. Men who had ridden to war with a song on their lips. Men who had knelt and offered their steel as a sign of peace. Men who had died trying to keep their homes safe. She reached out and touched one, lightly. The metal was cold. It did not cut her. I will not melt it, she said. I will make it mean something else. What? Aegon asked. Respawns. Ability, she said. Not a prize, a burden. I will sit it as seldom as I can, and I will send others to rule in my name in places that need it more. I will not let men kill and burn for the right to put their arses on it. If they do, I will show them that the throne is not worth what they pay. They won't believe you, he said. They never do. Then I will keep saying it, she said, until someone does, or until the throne is nothing but a story, and the real weight of rule lies elsewhere. She placed her hand on the arm of the chair and felt its chill move up her arm. Will you stay? She asked, without turning. For a while, Aegon said. The dragon dreams fade as new stories are written. One day you will stop hearing my voice. One day, children will dream of you instead, and you will be the ghost giving poor advice from the past. Is that what you think you've done? She asked. He was silent for a long moment. I think, he said at last, that I have spoken of what I knew, and you have chosen what you will do with it. That is all any of us can do, living or dead. She sat on the throne for the first time then, not as a queen triumphant, but as a woman with too much weight on her shoulders and too many ghosts at her back. Her dragons settled on the scorched beams above, their bodies coiling protectively. Somewhere far to the north, snow fell on a wall of ice. Somewhere in a city of pyramids, a freedman taught his son to read by candlelight, tracing letters that spelled out her name. Somewhere in a dusty inn in Dorne, a man lifted his cup and told the story of the girl in the red waist who had walked into a fire and come out with dragons. All of it reached her, faintly, like an echo of dreams. Aegon stood beside her for a while, saying nothing. At last he spoke. When the night comes, he said, remember this moment. Remember the bells. Remember how you held back when it would have been so easy not to. When the dead are at your door and men scream for you to burn everything, to ruin everything for a chance to live one more day. Remember that a dragon is not only what it destroys, but what it protects. She looked up at him, at the man who had spanned centuries on a river of fire and regret to sit with her now in a ruined hall. I will, she said. He smiled then, truly smiled, for the first time since she had met him. Good, Aegon Targaryen said. Then perhaps this time, when the coin lands, it will not be madness on either side. He faded as she watched, the edges of him turning to smoke, to shadow, to nothing. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw wings behind him, vast and black. Then there was only the hall and the shattered throne and the weight of her own choices. Daenerys Targaryen sat a moment longer, listening to the dragons breathe, to the distant sound of the city beginning, tentatively, to live again. Then she rose. There was winter to prepare for,